The first sign that something was wrong came quietly, the way disasters often do, with a minor scheduling error that no one could quite explain. Ambassador Elias Rowan noticed it while reviewing the daily agenda aboard the Council station Helior, a vast ring of alloy and light drifting in slow orbit around a blue-white giant. A routine convoy update listed 3 human freighters, arriving 6 hours earlier than planned, all from different sectors, all claiming identical navigation corrections issued by local traffic control, and all signed with authorization codes that technically existed but had not been used in over a century. Elias frowned, not because the error was dangerous, but because it was inelegant. Human logistics were rarely inelegant. For 200 years, humanity had built a reputation across the Council worlds for precision, patience, and an almost irritating dedication to procedure. Humans waited their turn. Humans filed their paperwork. Humans apologized when inconveniencing others and negotiated compromises that left everyone slightly dissatisfied, but still alive. That reputation had not been accidental. Elias closed the file, made a brief note to flag it for later, and moved on to more pressing matters, like mediating a water rights dispute between 2 amphibious species who both claimed ancestral songs proving ownership of the same ocean trench. The council chamber filled as it always did, a living mosaic of forms and colors, wings folded beside crystalline limbs, bioluminescent skin pulsing in conversational rhythms, translators humming softly as 49 species debated the future of shared space. Elias stood when acknowledged, spoke when invited, and said nothing extraordinary. He suggested joint monitoring. He praised restraint. He reminded everyone of precedent. The session ended with polite approval and no raised voices, another small success in a career built on preventing things from getting worse. It was only later, walking through the long curved corridors toward his quarters, that Elias received the first real alert. A human research vessel, the Wayfarer's Calm, had failed to check in from a deep space observation point near an uninhabited nebula. No distress call, no debris, just silence. The report was flagged yellow, not red. Ships went missing sometimes, space was large, and accidents happened. Elias acknowledged the notice and forwarded it to Earth Command with a brief note: monitoring, maintain posture. The reply came back hours later, just as brief: understood, continue. 3 days later, a second ship vanished. Then a third, all civilian, all unarmed, at least officially, all operating in regions considered stable and unremarkable. The Council murmured, but did not panic. Piracy existed, yes, but it was usually loud, messy, and accompanied by demands. This was something else. Elias stood before the chamber after the third disappearance and requested patience, investigation, cooperation. He meant every word. Humanity did not want escalation. Humanity had spent centuries proving it could exist among the stars without becoming the thing others feared. The Council praised human restraint. Several delegates privately expressed admiration. A few, quietly, wondered if humans were too restrained. Elias smiled, nodded, and returned to his quarters, where he sent another message to Earth, longer this time, filled with data correlations, probability trees, and one line at the end that mattered most: pattern emerging. Still no overt hostility. Earth's response was delayed this time. When it came, it was a single sentence: escalation threshold approaching. Prepare contingencies. Elias exhaled slowly. He had known this moment might come someday, the moment when diplomacy alone would no longer be enough, but he had hoped it would not come on his watch. The Council station grew tense as rumors spread, and it was not long before the truth surfaced in fragments. Sensor buoys reported microdistortions consistent with advanced interdiction fields. Old navigation relays, long assumed obsolete, showed unexplained power draws. A non-aligned mercantile guild reported being warned away from certain corridors by anonymous broadcasts that spoke flawless trade pidgin, but used phrasing no known species favored. Someone was cleaning space, quietly and efficiently, and avoiding attention. Then the fourth ship disappeared, and this time there was wreckage. Not much, just enough for analysis. The Council convened an emergency session. Elias stood at his podium as images rotated above the chamber, showing twisted human alloy, cut with impossible precision. molecular bonds severed as if by a blade finer than theory allowed. Gasps rippled through the delegates. Several species had weapons capable of destruction on vast scales. But this was different. This was careful. This was deliberate. Elias felt the weight of every eye on him. "We are treating this as an attack on civilians," he said calmly. "Humanity requests full access to Council sensor records and the temporary withdrawal of armed vessels from affected regions until responsibility is determined." There was hesitation, but no refusal. Humanity had earned trust the slow way, and trust, once built, carried weight. The Council agreed. Privately, Elias knew it would not matter. Earth would not wait forever. That night, he accessed restricted channels and read briefings not meant for Council eyes. The pattern was clear now. The missing ships were being taken, not destroyed, intercepted by forces that knew human routes, human response times, human habits. Someone had studied humanity and concluded, incorrectly, that humans would absorb the loss quietly. That mistake would be corrected. Elias received a message marked Priority Black, a designation used so rarely it felt almost ceremonial. The content was simple and terrifying. Phase lantern authorized. Visibility no longer optional. He sat for a long time after reading it, staring at the curved wall of his quarters, where stars slid past like distant thoughts. Humanity had hidden many things over the years, not out of shame, but out of choice. When the first Council probes had arrived near Sol centuries ago, humans had been fresh from their last great internal conflicts, their history heavy with lessons learned the hard way. They had seen the fear in alien observation patterns, the cautious distance, the readiness to flee. Humanity had understood immediately how it looked from the outside, a species that had nearly burned its cradle world and survived only by learning restraint. So they had made a decision, collective and quiet. They would not lead with their scars or their weapons. They would lead with art, with science, with cooperation. They would build trust first and let strength remain implied. For centuries, it worked, until now. The announcement came without fanfare. Across Council space, human transponders that had long broadcast minimal civilian signatures began updating. Cargo vessels revised classifications. Research stations amended registry data. Communication relays issued new public keys tied to defense networks no one had known existed. The Council panicked. Elias stood before them again, as alerts cascaded through the chamber, his voice steady even as the truth unfolded around him. Human installations, it turned out, were not undefended. They had never been. Every habitat ring, every mining platform, every deep space array had been designed with layered defense systems integrated so seamlessly they appeared to be structural components. Radiators doubled as beam emitters. Anchoring pylons concealed mass drivers. Even civilian shuttles carried dormant systems that could, if activated, challenge military escorts. "We did not lie," Elias said when accusations arose. "We answered the questions asked. No one ever asked how we protected our people." The Council struggled with that, with the realization that their peaceful neighbor had been strong all along, choosing not to demonstrate it. Before debate could turn to recrimination, the truth of the threat revealed itself. A coalition of fringe powers, operating beyond formal Council authority, had been capturing human ships, reverse engineering technology, and testing responses. They had believed humanity passive, slow to anger, bound by procedure. They had been wrong. Phase Lantern began with light. Human fleets emerged from deep space at positions no one realized mattered, controlling choke points, stabilizing trade routes, cutting off shadow corridors used by the attackers. They did not announce themselves. They did not threaten. They were simply there, vast, coordinated, impossibly prepared. When the first hostile fleet attempted to flee with captured human civilians, it found its drives locked by fields it could not counter. Its weapons shut down by precision strikes that left hulls intact and crews alive but helpless. The engagement lasted 12 seconds. No lives were lost. The message was unmistakable. Over the following days, similar actions unfolded across multiple systems. Human forces did not conquer. They isolated. They did not bombard. They disabled. Each move revealed an understanding of logistics, psychology, and escalation that left veteran strategists shaken. The attackers had expected rage or fear. They encountered discipline. Elias watched reports stream in. each confirming what he already knew. Humanity had not forgotten how to fight. It had simply decided that fighting was a tool, not an identity. The council convened again, this time not to question humanity, but to ask what came next. Elias answered honestly. There would be transparency now. Humanity would no longer hide its capacity to defend itself or others, but it would not rule, it would not dictate. The fleets visible across space were not there to intimidate, but to remove uncertainty. Peace, Elias explained, was easier to maintain when misunderstandings were impossible. The coalition responsible for the attacks surrendered within a week, their leaders extracted and delivered to council justice without spectacle. The captured civilians were returned unharmed, shaken but alive. Across human worlds, there was grief for the lost ships, for those not recovered. But there was also resolve. Humanity had shown its teeth, not in anger, but in clarity. Months passed, trade resumed, disputes diminished. Where once species tested boundaries, they now negotiated first. Elias remained at his post, his work quieter now, less urgent, but no less important. One evening, standing alone in the observation gallery, he reflected on the strange balance humanity had achieved. They were not feared the way ancient empires had been, nor were they underestimated anymore. They were understood, finally, as something rare, a species that knew exactly how dangerous it could be, and chose, every day, to be better. Far from Earth, beneath alien stars, that choice held, and the galaxy adjusted around it, not because it was forced to, but because it wanted to live in a universe where strength and mercy were not opposites, but partners moving forward together.